No matter what you do, everything in life will give you many different paths. And no matter what you take on that journey, you will be presented with a challenge or with a decision that you have to make. And within that decision, you may regret that along the way too.
Hello, I'm Sam.
And I'm Amelia.
Welcome back to S3E12 podcast.
Why are you so American?
Why I sound like Irish or some shit? What the hell? Podcast where we aim to build better mindset for better relationships.
Yeah, this week for maybe not better relationship, but building a better relationship with your mindset and all the thoughts around regrets.
That's a good question. What is regret?
To me, regret is, again, another feeling, but it could be a mixture of feeling of disappointment, sadness, maybe embarrassment, maybe anger. But yeah, in a nutshell, it's a feeling.
And it could be an experience holistically that maybe we've experienced in the past and we don't particularly enjoy it, or maybe even thought that we made the right choice at the time.
Yeah, but we've also created a few definitions because a few people have defined it differently. But one of them is what you believe you could be. So your ideal self, and what you're doing right now is actually different from what you actually thought you wanted to be or what you want yourself to be. And that creates a sense of regret.
Yeah. So the second definition is quite similar to what I mentioned at the start. That is the emotion we experience that we think our present situation could be better in some way, or happier if we had done that or done something about it or differently in the past.
Yeah, so I think in a nutshell, all of these definitions kind of wraps around thinking back into the past. So thinking back into the past and how you feel about it. So that's my understanding of regret.
Yeah. But the ultimate question is, do we have any regrets?
Do you?
Ask you first.
I can see you want to say punk. For me, I would say yes. But again, linking back to feelings, everyone has feelings. We're human. We feel. So yes, I have regrets. But why I don't usually feel regret is because I'll let these feelings come. I'll let these thoughts come. But most of the time, I either move on or think about my immediate thoughts straight after that is, if it's something that can be changed or can be made different, it's like, what can I do next? How can I solve this? And what can I do to make it better next time? Or if it's something that has already happened, can't really go back and do anything about it anyway, so I'll just brush it off. So for example, if I had a really bad haircut, I got like a really short fringe and be like, oh, I regret asking for this haircut. It's like, whatever, it will grow out. Just laugh it off and move on.
Good point. For me, I would say it's similar to you. Yes, I do have regrets to some extent. Obviously, different levels and sizes of how much I do regret it. But we're all human. I think it's something that we do think about. We reflect on it. We look at the past and even at the present and try to navigate that as we go along. So
the answer is yes.
Yes.
Lock it in, Eddie.
That's it. Lock it in, buddy.
So what are some things that you do regret? Like if you really have to think about it.
I think the biggest regret for me is knowledge of money. When I reflect back, I think early in my late teens, early 20s, even till, let's just say up to mid 20s, I don't think I really took money serious, like my finances serious. So I always thought you earn money and you spend it. There was never a thought of, okay, well, what is my future going to look like with money? Do I need to save it? Do I need to plan to buy things that is more financially future-proofing myself? And I never did that.
Thinking deeper level though, do you know why you did that? Like why you just earned money, spent money? Was it maybe an upbringing, or you just thought like you just wanted to use the things on the things that you want at that point in time?
It was a combination of, I would say, culture, like at the upbringing, because in my experiences, my parents never really taught me the definitions of money and how to actually navigate money. I know that a lot of my peers, a lot of my close family friends, they had a different experience. But for me specifically, I felt like it wasn't really taught to me.
Like the concept of money and how you spend it wasn't taught to you. So you thought that you could just spend it and then just use it on whatever you want?
Yeah,
Or?
and I think also at the same time, the immaturity in my 20s, just how you're out, you go out, you want to buy things because you want to do certain things. So it wasn't really. I guess my mindset was very much let's have fun.
So why is that a regret for you?
Because I wasted a lot of fucking money.
But you had fun with that money, right?
Yeah, of course it was experience, but at the same time, I do regret not at least putting a portion of that money specifically to other things, you know what I mean? So that is what I do regret about it.
Yeah. Money was also one of the ones that I had on my list, but quite different to you. So my upbringing, no one really taught me about money, but I think just as a kid, you grow up and living in an Asian household, you kind of pick up the sense of that scarcity of money. So that mindset where you have to hold on to whatever you've got. And also, if you need to buy something, buy the cheapest thing, make sure it's a bargain, even like negotiate with it and get the cheapest thing that you can get. So my mindset was like, if I had money, I would save it away. I won't ever touch it. And to me, I'll put it away and it's like out of sight, out of mind. And I think of myself as having no money, even though I probably at that time had like a few $100 in my bank account as a little kid. I'm like, nah, I have no money. But moving from that though, I really wish that I diversified my income a lot earlier and just built a better understanding of it. Like the reason why I regret this is because I spent my uni degree. I've like grew up with people who all own businesses. Like a lot of my family are business owners. And I think similar to you in maturity, like or maturity wise, I didn't really think for myself and be like, okay, what can I actually do with this money? So I really wish I diversified my money or my income a lot earlier. So either build like a passive income or build something. And that leads on to a similar regret that I put in that group together is freelancing and then starting that earlier, building that out, reaching the people because a business, you need to start it to let it grow and like 2 to 3 years for it to grow and then build something from that. And from that also diversifying that income, even if I'm doing it alongside a full-time job. So that's kind of my regret is just not doing it earlier and not really thinking about it. And I also have a business degree. So I'm like, I know all these things, but why didn't I take action?
Yeah, fair point. But I also think that the problem is it's all theory work sometimes when you study, so you don't really know what is actual practical. And not only that, I think potentially there wasn't enough exposure like I had in terms of the people that you're surrounded by who had businesses, but they didn't really teach you or show you that interest.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like everything is just picked up by observation. It wasn't like, oh, someone sat me down and be like, you can do this with your money, you can do that with your money. It's just like I observe. And the main thing that I picked up is scarcity. Like if you have money, hold on to it. That's what I thought about it.
That's a good one. Yeah. I guess my second regret is taking my studies serious. I think coming straight out of high school, I just didn't have direction. I didn't have an idea as to what I wanted to do. But every time that I did get into studies, I fucked around. I just didn't have a clear vision to complete it. So I did a lot of things where I would half-ass start it and I never finished it.
But I feel like it's a valid regret, but I feel like this is also quite common in a lot of people because if you think about it, you're 16, 17, you're coming out of high school and you're being told to think about something where you may potentially be in for the rest of your life. But you're not going to know that at 16. So I feel like it's a common one, but to me, it's a regret, but it's like be lenient and be forgiving for having that as a regret because no one knows and you can't really think about your journey and your path and know where you're going to go for the rest of your life at 16 or even now. Like you don't know where you're going to be tomorrow. So
yeah, 100%. It is like it's on a lower spectrum of regret for me, but I guess the holistic point of view is every time
every time
you study or take on studies, You have what it's called in Australian government is HELP or HEX debt, which basically you owe the government money for studying essentially because the government covers you first. So that was, I guess, the biggest regret is I'm paying for that now. I'm working my ass off working, and that's what I'm paying. So if I just took studies a little bit more serious, maybe I wouldn't have, taken on all these various different things.
I had similar one like school and uni, but it wasn't because of like not taking my study seriously. That is one aspect of it. So in school, I didn't take it seriously. I didn't even think about anything that I like, what do I like to do. At that point in time, I went from in primary school, like really strict upbringing. I had to study, I had to do after school work, I had to do weekend studies and tutoring. Everything was like strict. When I moved up here, I didn't have that strict upbringing like environment. So I thought about being cool. I have to hang out with cool people. I have to like talk to people and be out there and hang out with all that stuff. And I like a lot of the times I actually didn't rock up to class because I was like, I'm going to hang out with these people and talk to them. So it's just doing that stuff. And I didn't really logically think about what I wanted to do. And I took like the easiest subjects. And I don't know if it's the same across the world, but in Australia or in Queensland, depending on the subjects that you pick in high school, it can give you a better grade when you graduate. When you take this exam, I think at the time it was like QCS or whatever it was. Like it's like an exam that you take in year 12 and then gives you a score out of, I don't know, whatever, an OP score. And I got a pretty crap score. So just thinking about if I would go back and taking studies seriously, like you said. But on the flip side, I think the biggest thing is when I moved to uni, I still didn't really take it seriously. I just went to school. I still did the classes, but it's more the connection. So now more than ever, I do really realize the importance of connections. And back then I was like, as much as I said I was trying to be cool and like hang out with everyone in school, in uni, I stayed in the same circle for so long and I was outgoing and friendly in that circle. But once I have to move out of that circle, which is my comfort zone, I didn't, when I had to move out of that comfort circle, I didn't really try that hard to meet new people, network with other people, go to those social clubs that uni can provide you. And that is one of my biggest regrets because, like, honestly, right now, I do deeply regret not having more connections.
That's actually a good point, a valid point, a very strong point. For me, I see I was totally opposite with you with that. I took advantage of uni, partied hard and made heaps of connections. So I can understand where you come from.
Oh, yeah. The other point that I forgot to mention is I did make extra connections, but it's more so the right connections was more what I was trying to say. So, yeah, like you, I partied hard. I went clubbing. I met all these people. But in terms of thinking that in terms of like career and networking, finding like friends that are aligning with you, I wasn't thinking of that. I was just like meeting random people and it's mostly like clubbing. Like who wants to drink with me this weekend? Who wants to go out partying with me this weekend? So it wasn't really the right connections.
Yeah. I think you just didn't have deeper connections where it could translate into bigger things.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a good one. My last one relates to my previous semi-regret. It relates to my career. So as I mentioned before, I studied various different things, which is, okay, so to recap, which we've spoken about this before in a previous podcast episode, which was about university and what was the episode that we did?
Is university bad or like do you have to go to uni or something?
Yeah, something like that.
Anyways, one of those. One of the above.
Yeah, so in that previous episode, I spoke about all the various different things that I studied. The original one that I really wanted to do was become an optometrist. And that's probably one of the biggest regrets that I wish I should have done because right now I'm in the finance game. Sure, finance is quite popular. A lot of people do it, but it's definitely a oversaturated to some degree, in my opinion, industry. Yeah, I don't know. For me, I like helping people. I like seeing the progression in people, whether it's health or fitness or just them holistically. I thought, yeah, health would have been such a big thing for me.
So why didn't you actually go back and do Optom then?
Because relating to the second regret, I didn't take my studies serious. So anytime I would sit down with a book, I said, fuck that. I can't concentrate. I can't study. I can't take it serious. So that was my true letdown. And I think if I actually just sat down, my ass up, fucking focus on studying, it would have been a different story. Yeah.
Yeah, my third one, I think a lot of people would have this, and it's not traveling more. And I'm not saying that I don't have the opportunity to travel more now or in the future, but it's just the fact of knowing every time at the end of the year, there's uni breaks. You have about 3 months off. I always go back to Hong Kong. And most of the time, I'm doing that because my family's there and I just follow my family to go back there. And then sometimes I just go there just because it's become a routine. So I know that by the time it's end of the year, I'll go back to Hong Kong. But thinking back, like if I actually thought about things for myself, I actually had opportunities to utilize that 3 months to actually travel somewhere else or go somewhere by myself and explore and just be on my own and just learn about cultures everywhere else. And don't know if I want to call it a regret, but it's just something that I'm like, I could have done this for myself and just learn more. So yeah, it's just a regret that because travel is a big thing for me. I do really want to travel, see the world. And I don't know if it's now that everyone's like way past that COVID lockdown and all that situation, seeing everyone travel, I think that might have been influence. But it's really bringing back that memory and that feeling for me where I'm like, and that desire to be like, I really do want to travel and see the world and just explore. Like it doesn't have to be every place in the world, but just travel more essentially.
Yeah, no, that's actually a good one. I could have put that in the list, but you know.
Yeah, but that's the point I want to bring across. Like if you really want to sit here and think about all your regrets, you can add so much to the list. Like there's more that I could add. Like I could have done better in piano because I really enjoy music. And when I see someone play piano really well, I'm like, that could have been me. But I, like you, when you study, when I'm sitting in front of the piano, I have to practice. And when you see people play piano, they play the whole song. When you're practicing piano, you play it bar by bar, repeat it 10 times, 20 times, 50 times. Then you piece it together and then you got to practice the drills and like the scales and all that kind of stuff. And like, you're like, I don't want to be here. But if I put more time, more effort, more discipline to do that, I could get to where I want to be. Like dancing as well, like all these other things. You can sit here forever and just be like, I could have done this, could have done that, I should have done this, but the list just goes on. But what I wanted to say is like it's really dependent on what you think about this and what you do with this feeling, which we'll touch on a little later as well.
The list can be endless, especially with me. I could have gone on for hours about certain things that I potentially have regretted.
Yeah, but linking that to the top 3 regrets in life, there's actually a research where someone gathered or interviewed a whole bunch of people, like a lot of people, and they listed up into, I think it was like top 6 or top 12 regrets of people in their life and what category it falls in. We only put down the top 4. And the first one is romance, so like your relationships. Second one is family. I can't remember what that one is, but like if you're regretting your family, it's kind of sad. And then third one, education. So similar to what we've said. So we fell into that category. And then fourth one is career. So quite similar.
Yeah. So it goes to show you the top 4 is pretty standard stuff, but it reflects that, you know, we are all human. We all think and feel quite similarly.
Yeah, but these are the biggest things that influence our life, essentially, like family, career, education. These things are what we do in our day-to-day life.
Spend a lot of time in it every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then regrets, they're not all equal, are they?
Well, I don't think they are. Like similar, linking back to what you mentioned before, like, or even what I said, like traveling. It is a regret, but is it a big thing? Is it like a big issue? I don't think really. Like I wouldn't sit here and be like all sad and dwell on it and be like I've wasted my life and things like that. But there are bigger things. Like for example, maybe if you didn't treat someone right or you lost an opportunity somewhere to like ruin the relationship maybe. Like those are bigger regrets, but still to me, it's not the end of the world. It's like, what are you going to do next to either better yourself or do better in the next situation? Or can you rekindle whatever that relationship you've ruined? I don't know if that's the right word, or like didn't do good in, like how are you going to do better next time?
And I was going to say another example for reflection on regrets not being equal is my example in relation to the finance side of things. So how you spend your money, what does that actually mean in terms of the impacts to you? And to some people, it could be a regret that means a lot more to them. But for me, it's more about the balance of what that actually truly means.
Mm. And I feel like every regret, it comes with lessons. So similar to things that I think what we were talking about with Alex Tam in one of the episodes, like lessons that he's learned in life. It's like mistakes that you've made, but they teach you lessons. And it's like, what can you do next time? But linking this back into like, are all regrets equal? And we say no. And why we say that is like, it depends on the decisions that's involved and also the situation it's linked to. So some people, or there is also a lot of people that say later on in life it's regretting not doing something or decisions involving inaction. So linking it back into how regrets are not equal, there are actually a few different types of decisions that you make in your life that leads people to regretting. And they say that one of them is decisions involving in action. So when you decide to not do something, or you decide to not change, or something that you didn't do, and later in life, this is more like a long-term thing. Maybe later down the track, you think back and you're like, I should have done this because if I did this, I could have gone this way. And this is one aspect or one decision making that affects how people feel later on in life.
Yeah. So an example that I can think of that relates to this is I remember back in 2014, 2015 when Bitcoin and all that sort of jam first came out, essentially. And I remember looking at it thinking, wow, $300, that was really expensive. And when I reflect back and I go, fuck me, I should have put in some money there because now it's $80,000.
Shooting high rocket.
That specifically, as an example, I regret because I'm like, shit, I was actually contemplating on buying it. And I could have made some, results.
But then you like got to think back at that time and place, like your position, like were you in a high paying job? Were you in a job that was kind of like a casual position? And that involves into why you decided on not investing into it. So that's why I think, like, although you feel regret, but you have to think about what happened at that point in time. Like, why did you make that decision and how come you came to that solution? And it could be purely because you really just weren't in a position to do that. So it's not really something that you could have controlled. So then again, that turns your regrets into more understanding and be like, okay, like even if I invested in it, I didn't have the money to do it. So realistically, I couldn't.
Yeah, which is a fair point. It's just about setting what really happened at that moment in that time.
And then the other one is decisions resulting in poor outcomes. So this could be something where you just did something off the bat without really thinking about it. Or you did something where you may have known that it could potentially end up in poor outcomes, but you did it anyway. Like, so a few different reasons why you could have done that. And like, depending on what it's linked to, like if it was, again, cheating, I guess that's the easiest example. So you were in a really long-term relationship. You potentially could have been in a position where you could get engaged, get proposed to, whatever, and you kiss someone by accident, and that actually ruined the whole entire relationship. So that's a decision relating into poor outcomes. But it's like it depends on, or like if you had a different scenario where you went and got a tattoo and you got a really bad one and you're like, I didn't really want a tattoo didn't really want that tattoo, but I just went and did it and didn't really think too much about it. And now you're stuck with it. And it's like coming back into thinking about, is it something that I can change? Or is it something that, like, what can I do next to make it better? If it's about the relationship, can I talk to this person and be like, I'm so sorry. It's really something that I didn't really think about and I do regret doing it, and talking to that person and be like, is there something that we can rekindle in this relationship? With the tattoo, is it something that we can laugh it off and be like, it's a part of a memory, part of an experience. Didn't really like it, but it's a tattoo in the end and it's something that I can laugh it off. So it's like that level of regret, like they're not equal depending on the situation and how you think about it and what you do next about it.
Yeah, no, those are prime examples. I like to think of my example like our yard. If I put a little bit of effort in maintaining the yard, then the weeds wouldn't have gone all crazy.
Yeah, if you're a true listener, you would have heard our yard and our weed story many times already. And update on the weed situation. It started off with big weeds along the edge, and now our whole entire grass, everything that
Yeah.
has grass is just weed.
Yep.
And
Our yard is just weird. And I showed a photo to a mate, and he was like, mate, yeah, it ain't no grass no more. It's all
just
weeds, brother.
weeds. So yeah, like a little bit of regret there, not looking after it
But
properly.
that's a poor outcome though, right? Because we didn't take the effort, or we didn't do or take any action essentially. Yeah.
Yeah. And then another one is, to me, I feel like this validates, or no, to me, this one is a heavy one in terms of regretting, or why it would lead you to the feeling of regret is when you make decisions that move you further away from your ideal self. So I think people pleasing is one of the biggest one, and a common one that people can relate to. So when you do things, or you say yes to going to things, or you do things for people where it doesn't align with your value, or it's not aligning with you, or it just doesn't fit into something that you want to do, then you end up regret.
Yeah. End up with regret, but it truly affects you holistically. And I think a good example is like hanging out with the wrong type of crowd because you want to fit in, or you want to feel cool. Like you want to be a cool kid.
Yeah, I was not cool.
So
Saying.
like that as an example, some people tend to fall into that trap of wanting to feel or fit in to a particular group, and they have to do certain things or act a certain way that's truly not them in order for them to feel that way, which it's not a positive thing, because if you're hanging around with the wrong people and you end up doing some bad shit, it's on you.
Yeah, and then I think this one, like, it could be a heavy one, but it also could not be a heavy one. It depends on your next step again. Because if you are doing things that are not aligned or moving you away from your ideal self, it's like, do you realize that? Like, you don't feel like this is the right thing, or you don't feel like that this is you, or this doesn't fit how you are as a person. But if you keep doing that, or keep going back into that same mistake, or keep repeating that same action, then that's kind of on you. And you keep doing that, and then say 20 years down, 30, 40 years down, you're like, why did I continue to do that? That is a big, deep regret, because you kind of wasted the last 20, 30 years doing something that you know you don't like. But if you do actually sit down, reflect, think about it, and be like, okay, hang on, why do I keep doing this? Or why do I keep end up in these situations, and you do something about it, you have the potential to move out of that situation and do something that's more aligned with yourself.
And the last one is more related to a harder decision in terms of regret. It's more related to those choices that you make in life that is like a YOLO moment.
And you just don't know what it's like till you've tried.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where you just got to do it once, know what it's like, and at least you've experienced it. If you don't like it, then you don't like it. If you like it, then awesome.
Yeah, so I think this one is, again, back to the mindset. You can think of it as, like, you can think of it with yourself and be like, I was an idiot. Why did I do that? Or you can think of it and be like, I just needed to try it out and know what it is. Now you move on. So to me, I think this one is purely on mindset and how you think about it. So it could potentially be a regret, or it could just be an experience, another point in life in your journey, and this is what you've learned, and then move on to the next step.
Yeah. And it can be a lesson for you too, potentially the knowledge as well as you go through it.
So all of those points are just different types of decisions, and then linking to what type of situation and what you were at in that point in time, and showing you that there are different levels of regrets, like how heavy it is, how light it is, and potentially does it even need to be a regret, or is it just a lesson? But the other thing I was thinking about is, I kind of feel like, linking back to what I said, regret is a feeling, and you think about it, you accept the feeling that you may regret, but it's like, what do you do next? But I feel like, in my point of view, that regret is some aspects of overthinking. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that. And I oftenly am guilty of that. I'm a person that likes to reflect on all my decisions, whether it's big, large, small, whatever it is. And yeah, 100%. I think it's majority of the time it is overthinking.
Yeah, and the reason why I say regret is overthinking, going back to the definition and how we were saying that it always links back to you thinking in the past. Like there's nothing wrong with thinking back in the past and be like, oh, I did this or I did that and what you feel about it or what I could have done. But it's like a mixture of thinking back in the past and then thinking and evaluating, imagining yourself being like, what would happen if I did this part? What would happen if I went this way? But sometimes you can think that like just imagining it. But if you're letting that thought come, think about it, entertain that thought for a bit and then you let it go, that's fine. But if you're thinking about it and you're like, oh, I'm so sad because I could have taken this path and I could have been here. But how I think about that in life is even if you think about taking another choice or a different path, no matter what you do, everything in life will give you many different paths. There's many paths and choices that you can make. And no matter what you take on that journey, you will be presented with a challenge or with a decision that you have to make in life. And within that decision or that opportunity, you may regret that along the way too. Like it's not just like a one way fit all and you just go down that path and then it's like leading down the yellow brick road and you're happy. It's no matter what you take, every single one of those paths or decisions will still have other decisions that you have to make.
Yeah. So if you remember Forrest Gump, he did say, life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. It's just like that.
It is. And I love chocolate. But anyways, and the other thing with regret and overthinking, I think a characteristic of that is you punish yourself, and it's also the voice in your head and how you're talking to yourself. A lot of the times, if you deeply regret, like the ones that actually sit there and be like, I regret doing this and I feel so bad, you're like, you might be like, oh, I'm an idiot, or like, why did I do that? Or like, I'm so stupid, like I shouldn't have done that. Like these are the punishments and the negative talk that you're doing in, like within yourself. And when you find yourself like repeating that in your head, I feel like that's really unhealthy.
Yeah, it definitely is unhealthy, especially when you're having that negative thinking and you're trash talking yourself and your confidence go down too because of whatever decision that you made in the past.
Yeah, and then like in your head, you're trying to fix this. But in the end, if you think about it, what's done is done. Like you can't ever control Z out of your life or undo something. If this opportunity arises again and you have the opportunity to do something different, you can use that opportunity to make a different choice. But you can't go back and undo something. You could maybe apologize for what you've done, but that's still like a future step. It's not something undoing itself.
Yeah. You just have to find alternatives to move forward, essentially, to map out a new pathway that you avoid those mistakes that you made, essentially, or whatever regret that you make.
Yeah, we were watching this TED Talk. I forgot the lady's name. We'll put it down in the links below. But she also shared this quote from Lady Macbeth, which I think is what's that author, that book that everyone reads in school? Shakespeare. So Lady Macbeth, she said, things without remedy should be without regard. So what that means is what's done is done. So things without remedy, something that you can't fix, something that's been done, you shouldn't worry too much about it. Not saying that you're not allowed to worry. It's like it's done. Think about it, feel it, understand it, accept it, and then move on.
Pretty important quote because, yeah, without acknowledging and accepting and then moving on, you're just going to be in that endless cycle. So is regret only good or bad?
To me, I don't think regret is good or bad. Again, linking back to what I've been saying many times in this episode is regret is a feeling. Like all feelings come in different shapes and sizes. They're all feelings and they come at different point in your life. But regret is still a feeling and it's not good or bad. It just comes down to how you take this feeling, how you move on and what actions you take from feeling this sense of regret.
Yeah. Like you said, I think the important part is this feeling, acknowledging and accepting that fact and really trying to move on from it. That's probably the most important key takeout.
And like a good example, well, I don't know if it's a good example. This is my analogy, is thinking of a computer. When you do something, computer might come up with an error or even analytics, data and algorithms and all that kind of stuff comes up with an error. Like a computer will not be like, I regret that I made this error, or like I'm an idiot for not working this program out, or this code out, or something like that. A computer will just recalibrate, rethink, or you reprogram it on how to do better.
I don't think regret would only be considered bad is linking back is if you're really having those negative thoughts and you're essentially punishing yourself, that's when the thought of a regret can be a negative or a bad thing. So it's always about linking back, you're feeling about it, understanding it and acknowledging it. That's the only way that you can move on.
And how I see it, regret can actually be positive, and then diving deeper into like why it's down to your mindset and what you're thinking about it, it helps you make better decisions in the future. So you're learning from your mistakes, and although it may not be applied to the same situation or the same person, but you now know that this is what you've done in the past. This led to a bad choice, or this led to a bad situation or a bad point in your life, but you can do it better. You can do something that will better yourself next time, or put yourself in a better place. And comes back into resilience, I guess, as well, which is another topic that we've talked about, and just learning from those mistakes. Because if you don't have any mistakes, you don't have any challenges, you got nothing to learn from. So to me, regrets or making the wrong choices sometimes is a good thing.
Yeah, I think it helps evaluate your goals and the values that you've got currently, and it still keeps you in that same fork, as in the direction. And additionally, I think it also benefits your decision making too, because like you said before, and as you alluded to, it's the fact that you've made similar decisions in the past that may not have gone well. So you now have that experience of making a similar or identical decision.
Yeah, and then learning from the wrong choices kind of motivates you to do better, right? Like you don't want to sit there and be like, you won't sit there and be like, I'm a piece of shit, I'm dumb, or whatever. If it's something where you feel like you're dumb, or you didn't do a test well or something, it motivates you to study harder next time. But for a good example that relates to me right now is after my fight, I really did drop the ball in exercising, going to gym, like weightlifting. And I've always had a body where I know that my body maintains strength really well. So even if I stop for a little bit, I can still go back in the gym and lift quite similar to my weight. But recently I've realized that I may have extended that period of resting and like not really taking gym and weightlifting seriously. And I have lost that strength. And I've also noticed like joints and ligaments and tendons that are starting to hurt. Sound like an old woman, but it's like I could sit there and be like, I regret not lifting or not being diligent in my training. But at the same time, I'm thinking about all that training that I went through. My body did go through a lot, and I am really tired. So I was giving the rest that my body needed, and that's okay. But now it's motivating me to get back into it because I've rested enough. I've enjoyed my rest. And now I'm motivated to go back and get back into it and be stronger.
What a mindset you've got there. Powerful, mate. Powerful.
I know. Powerful inside and out.
Well, I think we need to just recap. What are the key takeaways from everything that we've really discussed about regretting?
Well, I think for people who may find themselves regretting or in that moment of regretting about something, just don't think that you were a bad person or you've done the wrong thing or you're an idiot. Yeah, maybe you might dwell on it a little bit, but just remind yourself, allow your time to think about it, but then think about what you can do next, and also pick apart, like understanding what situation you were in at that point in time. So bringing back into when you're saying you were looking at the crypto and it was $300 and you didn't invest in it. Think about that situation. Like, did you even have the money to spend $300? Yeah, you could have spent $300, but where would you put yourself in if you spent that $300? And thinking about the situation and understand yourself better and understand the situation and why you didn't take that action. So I think don't beat yourself up for it.
Yeah. I think ultimately you can make it more fun where you can just, if you're making a reflection, it could be something that you can laugh about it and move on. Because it could be something that could be, initially you thought it was such a big thing, but realistically it could be something that's small.
Yeah, so like it could be bad in your eyes, but to other people, it's probably nothing. Like they
Yeah.
probably didn't even notice it and it's put it all in your head.
Yeah.
So that's one thing you can think about. And what we were saying, if the opportunity arises again, do better that next time. Like, you know that this happened last time and you regret doing it the previous time. So do better in the next time another opportunity comes up. It may not be with the same person, the same situation, same workplace, whatever it is, but just apply that to another opportunity that arises.
Yeah. And for the more serious decisions that you made in the past that are probably more of a larger regret, right? Time heals. So give yourself some time, because time will eventually make you realize that, hey, yes, it's a decision that you made that may not have gone in a positive way, but how can you improve on that present?
One thing I want to add is life can be serious, but you just gotta laugh it off, have fun, and enjoy life. You can laugh back and be like, yeah, I was an idiot, but that's what's given me the experience and the stories to tell.
Yeah, so that's our key takeaways in regards to regret. Let us know what your thoughts are.
Yeah, if you have any extra advice that you would like to share, we'd love to hear it. So make sure you comment down in our post or even let us know in our DMs, and we'd love to share it.
Thank you again, guys, for joining us, and we will see you guys in the next episode.
No regrets.
Peace.
Goodbye.